All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. This is Rosh, and you're watching FM9 Basics. This is a video tutorial series I'm putting together to help users program their Fractal Audio Systems FM9. So this video series can, of course, be used in conjunction with my previous video series on this YouTube channel, Axfx Basics and FM3 Basics. You can check those out at the rest of the YouTube channel, or you can go to fm3basics.com and axfxbasics.com, and then the rest of the tutorials for the FM9 at fm9basics.com. So all these tutorials can all kind of work together, or you can use them individually. So sometimes I may, cover topics that I've covered previously in the past, but I also wanted each video series to be a standalone thing, just in case, if you're a user that only has one of these units. So this is the FM9, and a little about myself. My name is Rosh once again, and I'm a guitar player and guitar tech out in the Los Angeles area. I build and program a lot of guitar rigs for a lot of different clients. Some of my clients include Steve Vai, Def Leppard, Dweezil Zappa, Bush, Perfect Circle, Melissa Etheridge, and more. So I wanted to give back to the Fractal community and show some of my processes and some of my tips and tricks and strategies on how to program all the Fractal units so that you can use them live, on tour, in the studio, at home, in rehearsal. Really versatile units, and so I wanted to show a lot of different ways on how to program these. So this particular tutorial is going to be dealing with how to select specific channels in specific blocks. So what I see a lot in a lot of different presets by different clients is that sometimes they're using multiple blocks when they could just be channel switching between different sounds on the same type of block. So for example, if I just quickly put a phaser block here, what you can see in the phaser block is there's 4 different channels right here. And so instead of using multiple phaser blocks because you need different sounds, you can just switch the channels. A lot of blocks you're rarely going to ever stack or need multiple instances of them. So for example, the phaser, I've never really seen a reason to have multiple phasers in one preset and then stacking them when you could just have maybe a script 90 phaser as one phaser sound, and then you can swap the channel and go to maybe a vibe, univibe kind of sound. And so being able to switch between these two, if you look up in the CPU, you're saving a lot of CPU power up there. So it's not really fluctuating that much, as opposed to if you, for example, had 2 phaser blocks in there, you already notice some CPU. And for example, if we delete these really quick, one of the biggest culprits I see, of course, is users using multiple drive blocks here. As you can see, the CPU just totally creeps up every time. And instead, if you're not planning on stacking any of these overdrives, like using 2 overdrives at the same time to form a sound, it's much better to just switch between each of the channels. So for example, you could have this tube driver in channel A, you can have, a tube screamer in channel B, and then maybe you can have, like a fuzz in channel C, and then you can switch between them. Okay, so I'm gonna go over how to do that to save on CPU, and this allows you to have more blocks and more sounds in your preset, especially again if you're not planning on using multiple instances of the same block. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to quickly build a basic preset. Let's put an amp, let's put a cab, an input block, and then an output block, and let's click here, connect them with a shunt. All right. So let's make sure we get some sound. Okay, that's pretty cool. That cabinet obviously should probably be, the matching cabinet. And again, you don't have to match the cabinet ever, but it's a good place to start. I'm gonna bring the low cut up. Usually guitar tones don't need anything below 80 or 100 hertz unless you're doing something down-tuned or you really need that low end for some reason. You can do it here in the preamp or in the cab. And probably going to bring the drive down to clean this up, maybe bring the treble up and the bass down. Okay, and then let's make sure this is loud enough. All right, so let's bring this up a couple dB. Okay, cool. So we're going to call this channel select right there, and we're going to save this preset. All right, so here's a really common scenario. So for example, if you're going to use if you need multiple drive sounds, instead of adding 3 drive blocks here, you can add 1 drive block. Okay, so I'm going to right click here, or you can go to quick build and drag a drive block. And just like I was talking about earlier in the tutorial, let's say we want, different sounds in there. So for example, you can have like a boosted sound, maybe overdrive, and then like a distortion sound. Okay. So of course you can do it in scenes. So for example, let's say this boosted sound where let's use some type of boost, the FET boost. And then in scene 2, what we're going to do is go to channel B right here, and then we'll use an overdrive. Tube screamer is already selected, so we'll use the tube screamer for scene 2. And then we want like a distortion sound, so we'll use channel C here in the drive. And let's pick, the Sir Riot. Okay. And then, so what you get is you get 3 scenes, 3 different sounds. And if you look down here, each scene is changing the channel. So here's the boosted sound. Let's tweak that a little bit. And again, this isn't going to be a tone building video. This is just more demonstrating how to select different channels. Okay, cool. Just adds a little bit of grit to the clean sound. And then we go to scene 2 and we get an overdrive sound. It's pretty good right there. And then of course we get a distortion sound here, go into channel C. Probably bring this down, bring the level up a little bit. Now the cool thing is, of course, that all the channel switching on a drive block is seamless. Okay, so of course you can go into your FC edit right here. Right now we're on this presets layout. Let's just use a blank layout really quick. And what I'm going to do is assign scene 1, 2, and 3 here. And you can see that what we're going to do is we're going to get 3 different sounds spread over 3 different scenes. So this is one common easy way to get different channels in your preset just by using scenes. So we'll save that. If you look on the unit below, of course, you can see that we get this boosted overdrive and distortion sound. And these 2 blocks right here, this is just, from a previous tutorial. So I'm just going to reset those really quick. And then let's reset that. Okay, cool. So what you'll see is if I, put my foot into the other camera angle, of course, you're going to hear that there's not going to be any type of, it's going to be gapless switching between these 3 sounds. So really great way. And again, this is for users who don't need to stack overdrives. Obviously, if you need 2 overdrives or 2 distortions or 2 drive blocks, stacked into each other to get a certain sound, that's relatively common, where sometimes people will use a clean boost into an overdrive to get a different sound. That's also a great strategy, but I find that a lot of users don't really need to use multiple instances of the same block. Again, the example I gave earlier is like I haven't really run into a situation where I need 2 phaser blocks stacked into each other ever. And even delays or 2 reverbs or any of that kind of stuff, a lot of times it'll save you on CPU, and it'll also save you a lot of headaches, because you'll always know that, oh, when I turn on this scene, it's always going to be that boost. When I turn on this scene, it's always going to be that overdrive. Okay, so now let's go over another strategy. This is going to be the same idea, but this time, instead of using scenes, what we're going to do is we're going to use this channel select function in the foot controller. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear these scenes out really quick on the unit. And then this is the strategy that I use probably the most often for my, effect blocks and how to select the channels. So let's talk about this really quick. Again, if we look at each channel, so channel A has a boost, channel B has an overdrive, and channel C has a distortion. What you can do is you can assign, let's say, any of these buttons. We'll just use this first one right here. You can assign the effect. Now, instead of putting the function as a bypass, you can do channel select or any of these other channel toggle things, and I'll go over all those. So really quick, so we added this effect. By default, it selects the amp. What we want to do is select that drive block. So this is drive 1, and again, you can always double check by making sure you look here. So we want this button to, the effect is going to be drive 1. Now, instead of selecting bypass, what we want to do is go between, pick one of these other options. So for example, if you're using, let's say, 2 different sounds, channel toggles are a really great one. What you can do is you can toggle between, let's say, channel A and channel B. Okay. So you can see there's a little bracket right there, and then what it does is it toggles between both. Now remember, you're toggling, you're just selecting which channel this is going to be. You still need to bypass or engage the effect. So one strategy that I see that I use a lot is that you can basically go to, you can take this, use the hold function to select which block you want, which channel of that block you want, and then you use the tap function to engage it. So I'm going to reset this. Let's start from the beginning of how we would do that. So for the hold function, what we're going to do is we're going to select the effect. And then what we're going to do is we're going to channel toggle first. Let's go over this one. Then it's going to ask you for an effect. We want to select the drive block. And remember, it's drive 1. Okay. And then what we want to do is we want to select which 2 channels we want. So for example, remember, channel A is our boost, channel B is our tube screamer, channel C is the distortion. So let's say we want to be able to go between the boost and the overdrive. Okay. So by holding this button down, again, this first switch, what it's going to do is it's going to toggle between channel A, you can see the little bracket around there, and in channel B. Now, if you look down at the unit, you don't see anything, okay? Because hold functions aren't going to be displayed on this. It's only the tap functions. But if you do hold it down, you'll see this little box pop up, and it's going to show you which channel you're selecting. So I'm going to hold the first switch down, and then you see that it's selecting drive 1, channel B, and if I hold it down again, now it's saying drive 1, channel A. So you can see that little bracket right here in FM9 Edit also moving back and forth. And then also, if you look in FM9 Edit, channel A and B are going to be switched every time I hold that button down. So it's channel A right now. I'm going to hold it down again. And then channel B. So now what we need to do, of course, is we're selecting which channel we want on the drive block. Now we need to, of course, assign something to engage or bypass that effect. So we're going to go to Effect here. We're going to select Drive 1 again. And then now what's going to happen is the tap function is going to engage this block, and then the hold function is going to toggle between these 2 channels. So for example, right now the drive is off, and remember, we are on channel B right now because that's where our toggle was left last. Okay, so we have a clean sound right here. If I tap this, it's going to engage the block. And again, it's engaging channel B right now, which is the overdrive. If I bypass it again, it's just going to disengage that block. So again, we're still in channel B. We're engaging or bypassing. Now, if we want access to channel A of this block, which is the boost, all I have to do is hold this down. And then now it's going to be channel A, as you can see. And then the tap is going to bypass or engage the block. So now I have access to the boost. So that's a really useful way, especially if you're, you can think of this drive block almost as like a 2-channel type of overdrive. There are plenty of like real counterpart versions of that on the market, in different overdrive pedals where they have like 2 different switches for the same overdrive. That's a really effective way, again, to save DSP or room on the grid. But as you can see, it doesn't, the channel, you're only using one drive block at a time, so the DSP gets saved right there. All right, so that is just toggling between 2 channels. Now you can, of course, do channel increment and decrement. So what it is now what we're gonna do is we have access to, let's say, 3 of the channels. So it's A, B, and then C. And every time I hold the button down, it's gonna go up in channels. So for example, right now we're on channel A. I'm gonna hold it down. Okay, now we're in channel B. If I hold it down again, now we're in channel C. And since we didn't program anything in channel D, and we also use this wrap function, or we should use this wrap function right here, then when it gets to C, it's gonna loop back around to A. So for example, we're in C, I hold it down again, it's gonna wrap back around to A. This can be a little cumbersome, in my opinion, but again, if you wanna have access to all 4 channels or 3 of the 4 channels on the overdrive or any other block, this is another effective way to be able to increment or decrement through each channel. Again, now we have access to 3 different sounds just by using that hold function. So here's the boost. I'm gonna engage the block. I have the boost. Disengage the block. Now if I hold it down, I'm now that drive button is gonna be effectively an overdrive. So now I can engage it. And then if I disengage it again, I can, of course, hold it down. And it's going to go to the distortion, which is that Sir Riot. And then I can disengage it. And if I hold it down again, I go to the FET boost. Of course, if you program 4 sounds, you just want to make sure the upper limit is set to D. Okay? So that's another way that you can do this, of course. And again, it can be a little cumbersome depending if you're not really a fan of doing the hold switches or anything like that. So now, the last thing that I'm going to show is this channel select, which is actually another effective strategy and probably relatively common for a lot of users. So for example, I'm going to just reset this. We're going to do the same thing, but this time without any hold function. So let's reset this. Now, we've saved on the DSP, let's say, in your preset, and we want access to all 3 of these sounds. But we don't want to go through the whole song and dance of using a hold function and cycling up and down or toggling or any of that kind of stuff. Fractal Audio Systems has, of course, come up with a very, very convenient way to do that. So for example, what if we wanted this button to be the clean boost, this button to be the overdrive, and this button to be the distortion? Now, that's really effective. And again, most users will end up, I've seen it a lot where they throw 3 overdrives on and they assign it to 3 different buttons. And then you end up running out of DSP or you use a lot of it. Again, you get a really great feature in here, and it's the channel select. So what we're going to do is, of course, we're going to go to Effect, and then we want to select the drive. And then now, last but not least, we're going to go over this channel select function. Okay. So this channel select allows you to pick which channel you're going to engage when you press this button. So for example, if we wanted channel A of this overdrive, so this is effectively the clean boost, and we wanted to turn that on and off, but then let's say in this button, we want the overdrive. So if we do effect again, we select the drive, same drive block, but this time when we do channel select, we need to select channel B. Okay, so this is channel A, which is the clean boost. This is channel B, which is the overdrive. And last but not least, of course, is channel C of the drive. And we're going to do channel select and then channel C. So now, if you look, we get drive 1, meaning that is the drive 1 block, which is right here. But each button on the unit is going to switch between the different overdrives that we programmed across the different channels. So drive 1A is going to engage the FET boost. Now, if I bypass that, if I hit drive 1B, the second button right here, that engages the tube screamer. And then last but not least, if I hit drive 1C, it's going to go to the distortion. Okay. Now, that is a really effective strategy. It's probably one of the most common requests I get. Hey, how do I want to use different channels on this, but I don't want to do the song and dance, the whole tap function, all that kind of stuff. And I go, cool, use this channel select. So really effective strategy. And again, if you, let's say hypothetically, are on the clean boost and you want to go to the overdrive really quick, instead, you don't have to like bypass this. You just press that button. And then let's say you're on the overdrive sound and you need to get to the distortion sound really quick. Just press that. Now you just want to make sure that this smart bypass is on those blocks, because the behavior changes when you do it, when you have smart bypass off. So you're going to run into some kind of like tricky issues if you do that. So I would recommend usually keeping smart bypass on. As you can see, you can go between each of the channels. And voila, you get 4 sounds. You get a clean sound, 3 different types of drive sounds, and all you have to do is have one block with 3 different channels. Of course, you can have, this go to channel D of the drive block, and again, channel select, channel D. Now you may be wondering, hey, what about E and F? There's certain blocks that do have, up to 6 channels. But for drive blocks, there's only 4. So let's, maybe just hypothetically put something different in channel D. Let's use like a fuzz. Let's do the bender fuzz. Okay, cool. So what you get is now you get all 4 channels of that drive, of one single drive block. All right, last but not least, of course, you can always relabel any of these buttons right here. So instead of, because you might look down and go, wait, which sound is this drive 1A channel? I can't remember. You can always go to this mini display table and then do a custom name right here. So for example, we can do, hit the custom, we can do boost. And then this one would be overdrive. This would be distortion. And last but not least, this would be fuzz. And if you look at the unit itself, of course, it reflects that. And then you have access to all 4 of those channels on the overdrive block. And you can engage them, disengage them. You can go between them. But just keep in mind that you can't stack them, because if I hit the boost and I wanted to stack it with the overdrive, you'll see that unfortunately we can't do that because there's not 2 drive blocks. Okay, so if you need to actually stack overdrives or anything like that, I would definitely recommend putting the second drive block here. Now keep in mind, I'll leave you guys with this before I wrap up, is that this strategy can be used on any block with multiple channels. So again, there are a lot of blocks out there that I don't think most users would want to stack. Maybe, if we look at this, I don't really ever see an issue, need or necessity to maybe stack, 2 phasers or 2 tremolos, or, sometimes maybe even multiple reverbs. You might not want to do that. You might want to just switch between different reverb sounds. Flangers, you probably won't. And again, some of these blocks might be more CPU intensive than others. So this is a very effective strategy to save on CPU horsepower so that you can add more effects into your preset without eating into the DSP. And again, you see the versatility of this. You can have 4 different overdrive sounds and they're all coming from one block. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you guys need any help, if you guys have any questions, by all means, feel free to reach out to me directly or leave a comment in the description, or leave a comment below the video. If you guys need any help with one-on-one consultations or sessions, by all means, feel free to reach out or leave a comment below. Other than that, that's going to be it. Please watch the rest of the videos, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.
I'm falling with you. I'm standing certainty.